we're going to start off with a little safety announcement. Mr. Alvarez, or whoever's going to be doing that for us, we do this typically. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. I am Investigator Paul Dela Cruz. I'm with the Dental Board's Enforcement Unit in Orange Field Law. If we need to exit the conference room for whatever reason, what I would ask is that you would please exit out into these doors, go to the left.
That's the
You see signs that say exit. Down at the end, go all the way down, and that will take you out to Convention Center Way, which is the main ingress for any first responders that are going to come. If things are getting hectic and you can't remember, do I go left or right? It doesn't matter. Anywhere there's down on each end of the hallway, there's an exit sign with a stairwell that will lead out to Convention Way. I would ask, if possible, to avoid going out these doors. If you find yourself, especially if you're on this side of the room, and you go out these doors, it's a service hallway. You can go to the right. You walk out, go to the right. And that will take you out into this hallway to a stairwell over here. If you go to the left, you will eventually exit the building, but it's a circuitous route. So if you can please just try to remember, come out this way and go to the right. Any questions?
I think we're good. Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Welch has joined us again, and I'd like to start the meeting. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Dental Board of California meeting. I am Dr. Alan Felsenfeld, and I'm proud to serve as president of the Dental Board. Today is Thursday, May 18th, 2023. This board meeting is being held in person. This is an official business meeting of the Dental Board of California. Depending on the number of people who would like to testify on a particular agenda item, a total time limit may be imposed. We ask all speakers to please stay on topic and not repeat testimony already provided. If you agree with the testimony already provided, you may state your name and that you are in support of the comments previously made. If a time limit is determined to be necessary, please keep your comments within that time limit. I would like to call the meeting to order and ask the board secretary to please call the roll. Dr. Larin.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Lily Larin. I'm board secretary, and I will now call the roll. Dr. Chan?
Present.
Chan, present. Felsenfeld?
Here.
Felsenfeld, present. Forge?
Board Chair.
Forge, present. Larin, present. McKenzie?
Here.
Present. Medina, absent. Molina?
Present.
Molina, present. Olage? Absent. Pacheco?
Pacheco present.
Pacheco, present. Thakur?
Thakur present.
Thakur, present. You absent. Mr. President, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Dr. Larin. We will now move on to agenda item number 2, public comment on items not on the agenda. Before we open public comment on matters not on the agenda, I would like to remind individuals making comments to not discuss pending complaints, pending licensure applications, or pending disciplinary actions that may later come before the board for a decision. Such discussions are considered ex parte communications, as they could provide information to the board members that is outside of the record in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act. Such discussions could create a conflict and lead to a board decision being challenged in Superior Court. Accordingly, if an individual makes comments on a pending disciplinary matter, the individual will be interrupted. The board can, of course, receive comments regarding the board's processes in general, but it cannot receive comments on specific case circumstances where the decision is still pending. In addition, public comments should address the board as a whole and not individual members. Please be aware that the public comment during this agenda should provide information to the board members, but it is not a discussion between the board members and the public. The only action board members can take right now is to listen to comments and decide whether or not they want a future agenda item on that topic. Though this may seem at times like the board members are not being responsive, following these guidelines is critical to assure that the rules of the Open Meeting Act are being followed to avoid compromising the speaker's goals or the board's missions. In the interest of time, as we've done in the past, we would like to request that public comments not repeat statements made by prior commenters. If you are in support of a statement made by a prior individual and your and then you can just state your name and your support for the previous comments. Legislative hearings use this practice as it's a good way to ensure that we can hear from anybody. Are there any public comments today before we start? Seeing none, we will now move on to agenda item number 3, discussion and possible action on the February 9th and 10th Board of Minutes meeting. You all have had an opportunity to read the minutes. Are there any board member comments on the minutes? Dr. Chen?
I'll move to adopt the minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. The move is to adopt the minutes. Is there a second?
Second. Molina.
Okay, second, Molina, thank you. Are there any additional board member comments, possibly after the motion's been made? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Seeing none, we are ready to vote. The motion, Dr. Loreen, if you'll take the vote, we'd appreciate that.
Thank you. The motion is to approve the February 9th and 10th, 2023 meeting minutes. I'll take the roll. Chan?
Chan, aye.
Chan, aye. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, aye. Forge?
Forge, aye.
Forge, aye. Larin, aye. McKenzie?
Mackenzie, yes.
McKenzie, yes. Medina? Absent. Molina?
Yes. Molina, yes.
Molina, yes. Olage? Absent. Pacheco?
Checo, aye.
Checo, aye. Takur?
Takur, aye.
Takur, aye. And you is absent. The motion passes.
Thank you, Dr. Loreen. We move on to agenda item number 4, the board president report. Those of you who were paying attention last time, I had nothing to say because I did nothing. This time I've done some things, and I'd like to mention them briefly. Number 1, we are continually working, Dr. Montez and I, on a regular basis to get through some of the issues that we have to deal with. It's been very productive for me, certainly, and we get a chance to talk about those. Number 2, I attended the President's Training Seminar with Joanne Pacheco, Ms. Pacheco, in February, and we went through that. And finally, I had an opportunity to present at the California Dental Society of Anesthesiology, and I spoke about the anesthesia changes in SB 501, and that was back in early March, and there was a lot of confusion, certainly still in that area, and I hopefully straightened them out a little bit with what the regulations are. More importantly, I think I was able to suggest that we need more anesthesia evaluators. That's been a problem all along, and I challenged them, and I dared them, and we got a whole list of people who are willing to do it, and some of them will be acted upon today. So I'm happy about that, and that concludes my report. Is there any board member discussion about that? Seeing none, are there any public comments about the president's report? Seeing none, we can now move on to item.
I actually
Yeah,
have
sorry.
a comment.
Yes.
On the newsletter, on the updates of anesthesia, there is an error, and if it can be corrected, where it says, any dentist with patients who are undergoing deep sedation or general anesthesia, so it says they need to do at least 3 of the 2 following methods, and only 2 are mentioned, so that needs to be edited.
We can look at that and maybe make a correction. Thank you very much. By the way, that newsletter went out, and I personally, and I'm sure all of us, have gotten a lot of positive feedback on that, so keep it up, guys. It's good. People liked it. All right, we are now going to move on. Thank you, Dr. Molina. We're now going to move on to item number 5, the Executive Officer Report. Dr. Tracy Montez is going to present that. Ms. Montez.
Good morning. Tracy Montez, Executive Officer. I'm actually going to start with the update on the Dental Board's strategic plan, the 2022-25 strategic plan. So new, meaning Christy and I, a board leadership, we've reviewed the adopted plan by the board prior to our tenure. We've also met with our board management to identify what has been accomplished and make assignments to further accomplish action items. And I'm very happy to report that many of the prior established action items have been completed. We will, or I will, present a much more detailed report at the August board meeting so that the board and our stakeholders can see the progress that has been met. We are also working to incorporate diversity, equity, and inclusion principles are woven into our action items. As we know, that's extremely important for the department, and they have requested that the boards really take a look at and see how we can ensure that we're meeting these principles. So again, I will be doing this, making this report at the August meeting. Moving on, as Dr. Felsenfeld mentioned, I have weekly calls with him to apprise him of board operations and items for future agendas. We also I also meet with Dr. Felsenfeld and Ms. Pacheco before our board meetings to review agenda items and discuss those in preparation for the meeting. I also meet with the Department of Consumer Affairs Director, Chief Deputy Director, and Board and Bureau Relations Deputy Director, who will be here later to give us an update. But it's very important, again, for the dental board to have a good relationship with the department. We keep them apprised of activities as well as seeking guidance because they have a long history with the department and are very helpful in providing assistance as needed. Also, as I mentioned earlier, board staff presented at the California Dental Assisting Alliance and California Dental Assisting Teachers Association Conference on April 21st. We also had board staff attend a community resource fair in Fresno, and this was organized by Assembly Member Arambula, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, on April 25th. And we were just a small group of us from the Department of Consumer Affairs went down there to help educate the public about dental services and how to file complaints if necessary. So that was exciting because we haven't done outreach in quite some time. And as mentioned earlier, we did publish a newsletter. So after many, many years, the board distributed a spring newsletter on May 1st. It went out via our listserv, so hopefully you received it. Also, if you haven't, if you're not on the listserv, we have a new button, newsletter button on our website. We are going to be updating our website in the future. It's on our to-do list, but board staff told me, you know, we need to get this button on there so that folks can go look for issues and make it easy to find. So we have a new newsletter button that will list all future, the current and future issues. Our next issue we hope to publish around November, and we hope that it will be a little more extensive. We were on a tight time frame to get this out, and we have some ideas, and again, we have already started working on it. So then another exciting, what I call social media related to our newsletter is the board is now back on Twitter. So as of, I think, last week, the board is on Twitter. We are working closely with the Department of Consumer Affairs Communications Division. They help us with tweets and help us with monitoring that so that we do it in a professional and appropriate manner. So kudos to my Assistant Executive Officer, Christy Bell, who really pushed for that. Staffing updates. Okay, this is always my favorite part. We have 13 of our 84 positions are vacant. It's a 15% vacancy rate, but we have 6 offers that have been made. So to me, it's really like an 8% vacancy rate. All of our vacant positions are in the various stages of the selection process. And again, as I have mentioned at the last couple meetings, our inability to completely fill our positions has to do primarily with internal promotions. And so I think that's a really good thing. We have a number of individuals, in fact, we have a couple of them here today that have recently been promoted, and so then of course their position becomes vacant and we continue the process. And I'll talk more about that when our Orangefield office does their introductions, but I would also like to share that a recent promotion was Mr. Ryan Blonian, who has made presentations before. He was promoted to a supervising investigator 2. He joins Mr. Alvarez, who is back there as well. And what we're doing is we're splitting up our enforcement division north and south. So Carlos will supervise the Orange Investigative Analysis Unit. Yes, your name's going to get changed, and the sworn officers. And Ryan will be supervising the Sacramento Field Office Investigative Analysis Unit and sworn officers. And then they will be working together to streamline enforcement, standardize the process, and make sure that we have really good communication and support. So very excited about that. Budget, licensing, enforcement, and legislative updates will be provided by each of our unit or division leaders, as we always do. I want to, again, reinforce with regard to all of the work that we do. We work very closely with DCA, and we could not do the things that we do if we did not have these relationships with the Department of Consumer Affairs. So, moving on to introductions of staff. At our last meeting, we introduced the board's complaint and compliance unit staff. And so this time I would like to introduce our Orange Field Office staff, since we're down here home with them. And I'm not sure who's going to do the introductions, but I think Chief Alvarez Carlos is going to do that. And so I'd like him just to introduce our team. Come on up, please. Yes.
So thank you very much. Good morning, board members. So I'm very happy that I'm here, that I'm going to introduce, our workforce here in the Orange office. All the board meetings I come, I present statistics. You're kind of looking at numbers. So now you could say, okay, put faces to these statistics and who are creating those statistics. Because our workforce here is, they're going out, working on these cases, they're closing cases, and that's what's creating our statistics. And without their hard work and dedication, like I said, we wouldn't have, the protection, consumer protection that we want. So with our hard work, like I said, we're meeting our mission to protect the consumers. And so I said, I'm glad that I'll be introducing them. So I'll start off with our supervising investigator, Patrick Morsi. If you come down. And also, I'd like to introduce also Kevin Vossler. If Kevin likes to come down. He's our special supervising investigator. And I'll let them introduce their staff.
Good morning, everyone. I have 6 members who work for me. One is, the first one is, well, one's not here, but that's Monica Ackerson. She's out today. Then I have Jeanette DeLira, Paul De La Cruz, who you've met earlier, Casey Hunter, and then Thomas Tortorici, and Bernice Santa Ana. Those are the 6 sworn investigators that are from the Orange office. Thank you.
Do we have more? That's it?
No, we have
Oh.
more.
We have more.
And then
Kev?
both Paul and Jeanette are relatively new, and we're very excited because they filled our vacant positions. So,
And I'll let Kevin introduce his staff.
Good morning, everyone. So I'd like to introduce my staff that I have with me today. I have Jimmy Zermino, one of our staff service analysts. I have Regina Armstrong, one of our Inspector 2s. I have Timothy Fields, one of our special investigators, and Daniel Zaldivar, our other special investigator for the Orange office.
and I mentioned 2 recent internal promotions. That's Jimmy and Regina. Jimmy, how long have you been with the board?
22 years.
22 years. And we're so happy to have recently promoted you. And again, just a great team. Whenever I email Patrick or Kevin, I get immediately responses, solid information and communication. And one of these days I'll get over to the office and visit. But just so thrilled that you could come here today because we know your time is super valuable. So thank you.
Thank you very much. You guys are the boots on the ground getting the work done for us. We sit here and just talk about it. It's all good for you. Thank you. Please be seated. Is there any board member discussion on the group? Is there any public comment? Well, thank you again. We appreciate all that you do for us. It's very important stuff. We're now going to move on to agenda item number 6, which will be the report on the Department of Consumer Affairs activities, which may include updates on the department's administrative services, human resources, enforcement, information technology, communications and outreach, as well as legislative, regulatory, and policy matters. I just gave Ms. Gear a lot to do. And I'd like to introduce Ms. Melissa Gear, who has been with us before, and she is the DCA Board and Bureau Relations Deputy Director to provide this report. Good morning, Ms. Gear.
Good
It's still morning?
morning.
It is. Okay, good morning to you.
Hello and good morning, President Felsenfeld, Vice President Pacheco, Executive Officer Montez, and members of the board. I'm Melissa Gear, Deputy Director for Board and Bureau Relations, and I appreciate the opportunity to provide the Department of Consumer Affairs update this morning. Since 2017, the State of California has participated in Public Service Recognition Week to express appreciation for civil servants and the essential work they do. DCA celebrated the week with a department, which was last week, May 13th through 17th, with a department-wide appreciation message to staff, social media highlighting staff testimonials, and ending the week with a video highlighting employee service. Public Service Recognition Week was celebrated last week, as I mentioned, on May 7th through the 13th. And so I want to also thank you and the dedicated board staff for all your hard work daily and everything that you do throughout. So we are grateful for your service and we thank you. Next is an update on our recent DEI efforts. Established last fall, the department's DEI steering committee is comprised of 12 executive leaders from the boards, bureaus, and department, and has been working on many items, including updating the strategic planning process, training, and development of an informational DEI fact sheet, which was distributed to board leadership. The strategic planning process has been updated to embed DEI into the process, which includes a survey, DEI section in the environmental scan, video messages, and brief training video. Your board's current strategic plan ends in 2025, and the DCA's solid team will likely be reaching out to your executive officer to develop or update new strategic plans by the end of the month. In addition, all DCA solid trainers will have completed a 50-hour diversity, equity, and inclusion training certification program through the University of Massachusetts. On April 28, 2023, Director Kirkmeyer issued a memorandum on DCA's commitment to employees to increase the availability of DEI courses through DCA's solid training unit. A DEI section has been added to the homepage of the Learning Management System, or LMS, and employees can access and register new for 3 courses available at June 2023. Over the coming months, additional courses and educational information will be available. DCA's first diversity, equity, and inclusion fact sheet has been released. It was developed as an informational tool and includes the department's 3 DEI initiatives, memorializes DCA services that support DEI efforts, and includes DEI terminology as it applies to DCA. On May 12, 2023, the DEI Steering Committee held its quarterly meeting in person and elected a chairperson, Yafana Lamar of the Contractor State Licensing Board, and vice chairperson Paul Sanchez of the Speech Language Pathology and Audiology Board. The committee also discussed training, strategic planning, and DEI activities through the end of the calendar year. The DEI Steering Committee's work continues, and I look forward to updating you in the months ahead on their progress. Now is an update on important reminders about board member trainings, travel expense claims, and BMOT. First, there are 2 DCA-wide mandatory trainings for 2023. This includes sexual harassment prevention training and information security awareness. All DCA employees and appointees, including board and advisory council members, will need to complete the sexual harassment prevention training this year. Board members must take the 2-hour supervisory training, and advisory council members must take the 1-hour non-supervisory training. This training is required every odd-numbered year and is online, self-paced, and approximately 2 hours. Board members with an assigned DCA email, which is dca.ca.gov, are required to complete the Information Security Awareness Fundamentals training. This training addresses everyone's role in protecting DCA data and information. The training is online and required every year. Both the sexual harassment prevention training and information security awareness training are available in the department's learning management system. For more information, a mandatory trainings page has been created to help members identify, access, and track specified trainings. The page includes direct links to mandatory trainings as well as pertinent information and policies specific to these training courses. You can go to the dca.ca.gov and click on the DCA Board Member Resources Center page under Required Member Training. You can also reach out to myself or Yvonne Durantes. Second, as the fiscal year comes to an end, please submit your travel expense claims, or TECs, as soon as possible, but no later than 5 p.m. on Wednesday, June 8th. Claims submitted after this date will be processed. However, they will not be paid until July 2023. For questions regarding travel claims, please contact me. Third, board members must complete BMONT within 1 year of their appointment or reappointment. On June 20th, 2023, BMONT will be offered in person in Sacramento and again on October 10th, 2023 at a location to be determined. Members can register for this training via LMS. Last is an update regarding virtual meetings, the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act, and the federal portability law. As all of you are aware, legislation passed last year amending provisions of the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act to extend the ability of state bodies such as DCA's boards and bureaus to conduct public meetings virtually through July 1st, 2023. Absent the passing of new legislation to extend these provisions, DCA's boards and bureaus will not be allowed to conduct meetings virtually after July 1st. DCA is aware of legislation recently introduced, SB 544 Laird, which removes certain teleconference requirements from the Open Meetings Act. The bill was recently amended to do the following: require members of a state body participating remotely to disclose whether any individuals 18 years of age or older are present in the room at the remote location, and a general nature of the member's relationship with those individuals. And 2, require state bodies to end or adjourn a meeting upon discovering that a means of remote participation required by the bill has failed and cannot be restored. Excuse me. This bill does not include an urgency clause and would not take effect until January 1st, 2024. Boards and bureaus should be prepared to conduct public meetings in person in the interim beginning July 1st, 2023. On January 5th, 2023, a new federal law took effect that enables service members and their spouses who hold professional licenses in a different state to practice in California within the same professional discipline and at a similar scope of practice, if they are required to relocate to California due to their military orders. Since becoming aware of the new law, DCA has been collaborating with agency on how best to implement it. DCA will share information as it becomes available. In the meantime, should your board receive any inquiry from a service member or spouse regarding this new law, please contact DCA Legal Affairs. Finally, DCA submitted its 2021-2022 annual report to the legislature, and the report is now available on the DCA website. The annual report includes a new design and additional reporting metrics, such as military licensing data now required for all DCA boards and bureaus. We hope that you will take time to review this impressive compilation of the valuable work of the boards and bureaus. As I conclude, thank you again for this opportunity and for all the work that you do protecting California's consumers. I welcome any questions from the board.
Thank you, Ms. Geer. And Dr. Montez would like to say something.
Thank you very much for the thorough update. I would just like to share with the board that, again, Christy Bell, our Assistant Executive Officer, already has staff-wide training for diversity, equity, and inclusion scheduled this June. It's 2 days, so we are on it.
Excellent. Is there any board member discussion or questions for Ms. Geer? Seeing none, is there any public comment on Ms. Geer's report? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Geer. It's always a pleasure having you come down here. Board Secretary, I'd like the record to show that Ms. Rosalinda Alagi has joined us and is now a member of the board. Thank you and good morning. hard getting here sometimes. Okay. We will now move on to agenda item number 7, and this is the Dental Hygiene Board of California activities. Once again, Mr. Anthony Lum is with us, and he's going to report on the Dental Hygiene Board. Good morning, Mr. Lum, again.
Good morning, President Felsenfeld. Thanks for having me. I'd like to say good morning to all you all, Executive Officer Montez, President Felsenfeld, board members and staff. I'm Anthony Lum, the Executive Officer of the Dental Hygiene Board, to report our activities to you. My president, Dr. Carmen Dones, apologizes for not being able to be here. She had a prior commitment, and unfortunately, you're now stuck with me. So, since our last report, I believe it was November, we've been very busy with a lot of different things. Last year took up a ton of time with Sunset Review, and I know you all are going to be planning and going through that this year to be prepared for that. And our hearing was conducted for the Sunset Review back on March 16th, where the committee had several questions for us, and they mostly focused on the military aspect and individuals coming into California being assigned from the military. They also had questions in regards to the temporary license issuance for military individuals and whether the work experience, if they have any dental work experience in the military, if that would count towards obtaining a California license. We were pleased with the outcome of the hearing, as there was no programmatic issues to be for their concerns. So thank goodness, looks like our program's running smoothly. As a result of the Sunset Review, we always have a sunset bill that's issued by the committee, and our bill this year is Assembly Bill number 1257, and in its current form, it does the following. It extends the existence of our board through January 1st, 2028. There's a typo in the last amended version. I think they put in 2026, and I really don't want to do sunset again that quickly. So they changed it to 2028. It also eliminates the clinical examination requirement for California graduates who apply for the dental hygiene license within 3 years of the graduation date. Applicants from out of state or those graduates who apply after 3 years from graduation must complete an approved clinical exam to apply towards the licensure. It also adds a basic life support course to the list of licensure requirements in law. Currently, the proof of BLS certification is always required, but it's not directly stated in the law. So we're adding that in and amending that section of law. It also increases the max cap of potential continuing education units the board may require to renew the license from 7.5, which is the current number, to 10, if needed in the future. We just wanted that little elbow room in case some mandates come down where we have to expand the required CE hours for license renewal. The next item is our regulations. We're always working on regulations, as you know. We continue to work on promulgating our regulations and identify the need to revise existing regulatory sections as needed. We've got several packages moving through the regulatory process consisting of departmental and agency reviews prior to moving forward to the Office of Administrative Law for approval. A few topics we're addressing are the military temporary license, the authority to cite and fine or place dental hygiene educational programs found to be out of compliance with the law on probation, and inspection parameters for mobile dental hygiene clinics and portable dental equipment owned by registered dental hygienists in alternative practice. So that way we can periodically check up on and make sure everything's being kept up appropriately and sterile for safety precautions for the public. One major and overdue regulation that was approved and went into effect as of January 1st, 2023 is a retired license that allows dental hygienists ready to exit the profession to maintain their license only in a retired status. So coming up, our big project now, we're done with Sunset Review, yay, is our strategic plan. Our last plan was from 2017 and it was supposed to end in 2021, but we extended it to 2023 due to the Sunset Review process that we were anticipating. So now that that's ending this year, we're gonna work on our new strategic plan that goes into effect. So The board has initiated the strategic planning process with the department to create its new plan and will begin with a procedural meeting in June to prepare for the actual strategic plan meeting in September. The board must determine issues to address from these meetings to implement over the next 4 to 5 years. As far as our educational programs are concerned, our oversight of the dental hygiene educational programs continues with various changes constantly occurring, such as new program directors and faculty, expansion requests of existing programs, and changes in the program due to remodeling of the clinic or other parts of the school. Multiple site visits to the educational programs are scheduled this year to ensure a safe practicing environment for the students and operational compliance of the law. Should we go to Fresno? I'm just kidding. As far as our personnel issues are concerned, we're experiencing the same things that you are. And after the boards, let me go over our board members first. Sorry about that. But after the board's termed out members left at the end of 2022, we're now operating at about 80% in regards to our board members, with 2 more members still to be appointed. We had 2 new members appointed in February, 1 RDH, registered dental hygienist licensee, and 1 public member, which brings us to 7 at the current time, but still have 2 more to be appointed, including our dentist and RDHAP member. So if any of you know a dentist who'd love to serve on my board, please contact the governor's office. For staff, we experienced a large exodus toward the end of 2022 and the beginning of 2023 due to promotions and retirement, but continue to fill vacant positions as quickly as possible to address the board's work. We currently have 5 vacancies, which is roughly 33% of my staff, but three positions are ending their advertisement period, I believe, by tomorrow. So hopefully we'll be able to fill those vacant positions soon. That concludes my report, and I want to thank you all for the opportunity to share our activities with you and the continued collaborative efforts that we've been ongoing for years, but continue to improve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lum. Is there any board member discussion or questions for Mr. Lum? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the report of the Dental Hygiene Board? Seeing none, Mr. Lum, you are excused. Thank you very much. We
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
that. We move on to agenda item number 8, and that is going to be the budget report. Mr. Wilbert Rumbaugh is going to present that to us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, board members. My name is Wilbert Rumbawa, and I'm the Administrative Services Manager with the Dental Board of California. I will be presenting the budget report, which can be referenced on pages 36 through 40 of your meeting materials. These materials provide substantial information on the board's budget, both revenue and expenditures, and the projected fund balance moving forward. I would like to provide an update for fiscal year 22-23. The board projects revenues of $18.6 million, approximately $3.1 million is projected from the initial examination and permitting fees, and $14.6 million from the renewal fees. The board's expenditures for this fiscal year, as of fiscal month 9, which is through March 2023, is projected to be $18.5 million. Expenditure projections, as with revenue projections, may change with actual returns in the remaining fiscal months. Based on reports received by the Department of Consumer Affairs, the board is projected to revert approximately $1.2 million by the end of 22-23. This has changed from previous reports as the board has been filling vacancies and there are increased attorney general costs. The dental board, in conjunction with the budget office, will continue to monitor these expenditures and revenues and report back to the board with monthly projection as the future fiscal months close. There is no action items on this agenda item, and this concludes their budget report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rumbaugh. Is there any board discussion or questions on the budget? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the budget? Once again, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We're now moving on to agenda item number 9A, enforcement, review of statistics and trends. I'm going to ask Mr. Alvarez to come up and join us again this morning and tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you again. Good morning. I'll be presenting agenda item 9A, enforcement review of statistics and trends. So the statistics that we gathered for this report were through January 1st, 2023 through March 31st of 2023. I know you had some opportunities to review the statistics. Does anyone have any questions on the statistics?
Any board member questions? I have a comment.
Sure.
Mr. Alvarez, I was just looking at this, and I was pretty impressed. The complaints keep coming in. It's a never-ending problem. And I'm looking at the first 6 months, and in that 6 months, you had about 660 complaints come through. And it looks like 97% of them were dealt with, and only a few had to trickle up the ladder with more. That's phenomenal. Congratulations to your unit.
No, thank you very much.
It's not been like that. No, that's
Yeah.
terrific.
That also goes out to our complaint compliance unit as
Sure.
well. You know,
Well,
yes, correct. You know, Owen, our the chief of CCU. You know, Owen Dudley, he's not here, but you know, it's his hard work as well that makes these these numbers
Okay.
good. Meeting with his
Thank
staff, and I just kind of want to comment on just what Tracy kind of mentioned. That we're just always meeting the supervisors, the chiefs. We're always meeting because we want to bring consistency to the enforcement program. And what we're doing is we're updating our letters that are being sent out to consumers, letters that are being sent out to our subject matter experts. We're just looking into that, having consistency. We're drafting new letters. We're always having meetings again, looking at our statistics, how we can improve our timelines, on the case-by-case basis. What we're trying to do is improve our timelines as well. So again, so we can protect the consumers.
are there any other board member comments?
I have a
Dr.
comment.
Molina.
I want to thank Carlos for the presentation that he gave to Los Angeles Dental Society, and it was quite enlightening and appreciated because a lot of the dentists did not understand, how the process goes. So after your presentation, we got a lot of comments about how it's so important that that your work they understand it, so that way they can comply better.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. One other personal comment. If you think about the fact that the dental board's highest priority is protection of the health of the public, then in my mind, our highest priority is enforcement, because that's what's going to protect the health of the public. And once again, good work. Any public comment on, I'm sorry, Dr. Montez?
I'm sorry, Carlos, Mr. Alvarez, I forgot to add that to my EO update. Would you mention the presentation that you made, please, the group, and what you did?
Sure. So this was May 6th, I want to say, or May 2nd. I was invited to do a presentation for the Los Angeles Dental Society, and they kind of wanted to know our enforcement program. And so I basically introduced them and presented to them our enforcement program from the start. And I always say this, it always starts in our CCU unit. Everything starts there. And so I kind of basically went over how many complaints we received, the process, how it's entered, how staff receives these complaints, how it's, we receive it from patients, other physicians, from police departments, and I kind of covered that. And so what I covered was, again, is the process that we do. One of the things that I kind of mentioned is that when the enforcement or the staff, investigative staff goes out there, their primary duty is just to collect the evidence, collect facts. And we're also there to help the physicians as well. And we're not just there where we're looking into a case where we're thinking, okay, this is going to go to some type of discipline. But we're also there to help them as well, because not all of our cases result in discipline. It's a closure. A lot of times we do receive cases that are anonymous, which we look into, even those are anonymous, and sometimes they're embellished, and that's our job, is to protect the physicians as well. And basically my overview was just how the process goes through once we finish an investigation, how it goes through our discipline coordination unit, and the results of the discipline, where it end up in a public approval, probation, or, like I said, the very max will revoke the license. So, pretty much that was the overview that I did for the LA Dental Society.
Thank you, Carlos. And again, Carlos came to me and said, hey, we got an invitation to do this. I said, great idea, but let's make sure we involve the team. And just as he said, each of our units contributed to the presentation that he made. And so, again, it was getting everybody together, putting it together, saying, yes, this confirms what we do, having our new editor, polish it so it looks pretty. And then, of course, Carlos presented it, so we appreciate it.
Thank you. Are you willing to take this on the road, sir? Dr.
Yes, of
Thakur, you
course.
had a comment. Dr. Thakur.
So, thank you. And the comment was about taking it to on the road. Perhaps having it recorded and be available on the board's website that we could refer people to, I think would be a great idea, because a lot of people ask me, like, so are there interesting cases you want to share? I said, no, that I cannot do. But what is the process? Quite honestly, I can't even explain that. But I think this would be a great thing to do.
And I just kind of want to add to it, because it also included the board members, your process as well. Your jobs as board members, so that it also covered that as well.
Okay, thank you again. Have a seat. We're going to change players for a couple of seconds here, it looks like, and we're going to go on to item 9B, the update from the Enforcement Committee. I'm going to ask Ms. Pacheco, our Board Vice President, to give her report.
Okay, this is from.
Oh, we did ask him for public comment earlier, if I'm not mistaken, yes. You don't think so? All right, hang on. Was there any public comment on Mr. Alvarez's presentation? I apologize, I thought I had.
Thank you. Sherry Becker, representing Sherry Becker. I think it would.
Incorporated.
Yeah. I think it would be helpful to know some of the breakdown of the categories of the complaints. If they were more like administratively based or clinically based, like what kinds of things and who was involved also with the complaints. I know you can't say names, but just categories. I think that would just be a helpful thing. Thank you.
Okay. Am I good now, counsel? Thank you. All right, let's go to item 9B, Dr. Pacheco. Ms. Pacheco.
Okay, this is informational only and no action is being requested. This is an update from the Enforcement Committee. Just to give you a little bit of a background, in 2023, the Dental Board of California reestablished the Enforcement Committee. The Enforcement Committee is currently overseeing the board's participation in the Department of Consumer Affairs Enlightenment Enforcement Project. The board volunteered to be the first board to participate in the project and was selected to pilot it. The purpose of the project is to make enforcement processes more efficient by identifying and implementing best practices. The project will produce recommendations to streamline and improve enforcement services while reducing timeframes and lowering costs through more efficient workflows. The project brings together board staff, DCA's Organizational Improvement Office, and subject matter experts in enforcement and IT. The Enlightenment Enforcement Project follows DCA's Enlighten Licensing Project, which was launched with the participation of the Board of Registered Nursing and issued its first report in May of 2022. The Enlighten Enforcement Project kicked off with 2 demonstrations of enforcement processes by board staff. The meetings were held over Microsoft Teams, and the board's Complaint and Compliance Unit demonstrated the compliant intake processes, and the Enforcement Division presented various investigative and inspection activities. Board staff and IT SMEs participated by collaborating and making suggestions on processes. The Improvement Office took notes and is mapping the business processes with a view to streamlining and improvement. So when all board enforcement processes have been demonstrated and evaluated, a report will be prepared with final recommendations. Board staff estimate that the project will be completed by November 2023, and at that time, I will provide an update at the August 2023 board meeting.
Thank you, Vice President Pacheco. Is there any board discussion or questions on this report? Seeing none, is there any public comment on this presentation? Thank you again. We now move on to item 10A, the Diversion Program Report and Statistics. Mr. Alvarez, you're up again, sir.
Thank you. So I'm here to present Agenda Item 10A, Diversion Program Report and Statistics. The memo provides the statistics for the quarter ending on March 31st, 2023. These statistics reflect the participant activity within the diversion program. There were 7 participants in the program. 1 new participant was accepted into the program, and 1 participant was terminated for noncompliance. Of the 7 continuing participants, there are 3 self-referrals, 1 enforcement referral, and 3 probation referrals. The next diversion committee meeting is scheduled for July 12th, 2023, and that is here in Orange County, and that will be held in our Orange office there in the building. So I'm here, happy to answer any questions that you have for diversion.
Thank you again, Mr. Alvarez. Do we have any board comments or questions? Dr. Lebrin?
Thank you, Carlos. I just had a question about the prescription positive tests. What kind of prescriptions were they in 2021, 22? Would they be opioids or would they be just any prescriptions?
And
On the column, on the
yeah, I'm not.
statistics.
Yeah, that I'm not sure. I can find out for you for sure what those
Okay, thank you.
what those were. Yeah.
Any other board member comments? Dr. Chan?
Good morning, Carlos. Is it relevant to include in the report the impact, the financial impact of what our costs are from the dental board for the diversion programs? Is it relevant?
Well, yeah.
That's a tough one. Can you be more specific, like the dental program costs? Because the participants are paying for their costs. So is it the cost to administer the program or to have the committee and?
A few years ago, we went through the request for a proposal for the different companies to administer this. And so there's our cost of the program. So the question is, I guess the question is, if the operating cost exceeds the participants, then we need to relook at it again.
We can certainly do some research on that, work with budgets, and get an assessment of that for you. Mm-hmm.
Any public comment on this report? Seeing none, we're going to move on to, I believe it's agenda item 10B. Once again, Mr. Alvarez, if you will speak about the Controlled Substance Utilization Review and Evaluation System Report.
Thank you. So on the agenda item 10B, the statistics were gathered from January through March of 2023. If you had an opportunity to review the statistics, one of the new things that it's on here is number of inbound interstate searches. So currently right now, the states who are involved in this are Oregon, Nevada, and Arizona. So they're contributing to this, to the CURES program as well with Department of Justice. So the platform is up, but currently data is not being collected as of yet. So DOJ is gonna, there's no date as to when the data is gonna be collected, but the platform is built, and they're also waiting to see if other states are gonna participate in the inbound interstate searches for CURES. So again, it's just another great tool to reduce the misuse of opioids.
Thank you. Is there any board member comment or discussion on this report? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the report? Again, thank you. All right, we are now ready to move on, I believe, to item number 11A. Mr. Alvarez, thank you. We're going to ask Ms. Regali to come down and talk to us about an update on dental licensure and permit statistics. Good morning, Ms. Regali.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Felsenfeld. My name is Pedro Galli. I am the Chief of Dental Programs and Customer Support. Today I'll be presenting Agenda Item 11A, which begins on page 60 of your meeting materials. This memo provides dental licensing application statistics, dental law and ethics written examination statistics, and dental license and permit statistics, which give an overview of the status of licenses and permits. I would like to point out that board staff have determined that the number of applications received for Reb and ADEX may change for the current quarter because we are noticing applicants are submitting applications via the Reb pathway that are actually intended for ADEX. On page 68 of your meeting materials, this includes the date of the last occupational analysis done by the Office of Professional Examination Services, which is 2018. The target date for the next occupational analysis remains 2025. Beginning on page 72 of your meeting materials, the tables provide statistics on current and active dental licenses by county and on the population per dental license from fiscal year 2020, 2021 through March 31st of 2023. Yuba County has the highest population per dentist, and both Sierra and Alpine counties remain the lowest population per dentist. There is no action requested, and this concludes this agenda item. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you again. Is there any board member discussion or questions for Ms. Regali on this report? Seeing none, is there any public comment on this report? Thank you. We're going to move on now to item 11B, 11. You have a B in here, Ms.
Just
Regali?
12.
It's 12, yeah, 11A. All right. I'm this close to being hospitalized. Please do not mess with my head. All right. 2 pills short is what I always say. All right, so anyway, this is item 12, thank you. The report on the April 26, 2023 meeting of the elective facial cosmetic surgery permit credentialing committee.
Yes. Thank you again. I will now be presenting agenda item 12, which is the report on the April 26, 2023 meeting of the elective facial cosmetic surgery permit credentialing committee. This begins on page 75 of your meeting materials. The EFCS permit is for oral and maxillofacial surgeons and enables them to perform elective facial cosmetic surgery after meeting statutory requirements. An unlimited EFCS permit entitles a permit holder to perform any cosmetic procedures in Category 1 and Category 2 as defined in Business and Professions Code 1638.1. The committee that reviews these applications is comprised of 5 members who are appointed by the board. They meet quarterly or as needed to review and discuss applications. After reviewing an application, the committee makes a recommendation to the board on whether or not to issue the EFCS permit to the applicant. The committee may recommend issuing an unlimited permit, or it may recommend issuing a restricted permit that limits the procedures that the applicant may perform within either category. The committee will recommend a restricted permit if it is not satisfied that the applicant has the training or competence to perform certain procedures, or if the applicant has not requested permission to perform all procedures specified in Business and Professions Code 1638.1. The committee met on April 26, 2023 via teleconference to review and discuss one application. The application was tabled pending receipt of additional documentation. 4 committee members were present. Again, there's no action requested on this agenda item, and I'm available for questions.
Thank you. Excuse me, is there any board comment or questions for Ms. Regali on this? Seeing none, is there any public comment on this report? Seeing none, thank you. We're going to move on now to all right, so let me stop for 1 second. One of the things that I have the ability to do is to alter the, no, you may sit, are you coming up again? I think, hang on if you are. If not, don't worry about it. We have the ability to alter the agenda, and after this morning's Dental Assisting Committee Council report, we're going to postpone that report to the first order of business tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, and then we'll continue on with the rest of our agenda. So you're okay with that, Ms. Reed Espinoza? Thank you, and we're going to move that on. All right, item 14. Is going to be update and discussion of possible action on the appointment to the Dental Assisting Council. And I'm going to ask Dr. Montez to speak to that.
Thank you very much. So you have your memo providing background information. I'm not going to read the entire memo, but I am going to say pursuant to Business and Professions Code Section 1742, the Dental Assisting Council considers all matters relating to dental assistance in California and makes appropriate recommendations to the Dental Board of California and the standing committees of the board. The council meets quarterly in conjunction with board meetings typically and other times as necessary. The council is comprised of registered dental assistant member of the board, another member of the board, and 5 RDAs representing a broad range of dental assisting experience and education. And so again, there are certain terms that are delineated for each of the members. And so we have a situation here where we are looking at a reappointment. So after resignations of several council members in June 2020, a board subcommittee consisting of Joanne Pacheco, RDH, and Rosalinda Alagi, RDA, was formed to review applications, conduct telephone interviews, and bring recommendations to the board for, among other council member positions, a faculty member of an RDA educational program approved by the board. At the July 24th, 2020 board meeting, based on the subcommittee's recommendations, the board appointed Jerry Fowler, RDA EF OA, to fill one of the vacancies for a faculty member of an RDA educational program approved by the board. Ms. Fowler has served a partial term which expired in March 2023. Ms. Fowler continues to serve on the council through a 1-year grace period until the board appoints a member to fill the vacancy. Ms. Fowler seeks reappointment to her current dental assisting council member position. Given that her term expired in March, the board is asked to consider reappointing Ms. Fowler to serve a full term, which would expire in March 2027. The board has not otherwise solicited applications to fill this vacancy. And then in reviewing the reappointment of Ms. Fowler, the board may wish to consider the following, and we have some criteria there listed for you. The board staff or the board is asked to consider a motion to reappoint her to the same position for a term of 4 years expiring in March 2027. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any board member questions about this appointment? I see none. Is there any public discussion on the appointment? Nope, let's do the motion first. All right, let's have a motion. Who would like to move that?
So moved.
Alagi? I'm sorry, we have Molina and Alagi, your second then? Okay, Molina moved it, and now we have the motion before us. Do we have any additional discussion from board members? Seeing none, is there any public comment? Ms. Fowler, are you here still? She's gone. She gone? Okay. Any public comment at all? Seeing none, we're ready to vote. Board Secretary, would you please take the roll?
Okay, the motion is to reappoint Ms. Fowler to the same position for the term of 4 years expiring March 2027. Is that correct? Okay, I will now call the roll. Chan? Chan, aye. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, aye. Forge? Forge, aye. Larin, aye. McKenzie?
McKenzie, yes.
McKenzie, yes. Medina? Absent. Molina?
Lina, yes.
Molina, yes. Olage?
Olagi, yes.
Olage, yes. Pacheco?
Pacheco, aye.
Pacheco, aye. Thakur? Thakur, aye. And you is absent. The motion passes.
Thank you, and congratulations to Ms. Fowler in absentia. We're going to move on to agenda item number 15A, general anesthesia and sedation permits, inspections, and evaluation statistics. I'm going to ask Ms. Jessica Olney, who is working her way up to the table, to give us the report. Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Indeed it is. Lunch will be at 12:30, so we'll keep working.
Thank you, Dr. Felsenfeld, and good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Jessica Olney, Anesthesia Unit Manager, and I'll be presenting agenda item 15A, which begins on page 80 of your meeting materials. This memo provides a statistical overview of the board-administered on-site inspections and evaluations for the general anesthesia and medical general anesthesia permits. This memo does not include statistics on the on-site inspections and evaluations for conscious sedation permits because the permits were eliminated by Senate Bill 501 as of January 1 of 2022. Evaluations for the conscious sedation permit holders stopped as of September 2022. An existing conscious sedation permit holder that was issued prior to January 1 of 2022 may continue to follow the terms of that existing permit until it expires. This memo does not include statistics on the on-site inspection and evaluations for the new moderate sedation permits, which were created by Senate Bill 501 to replace the conscious sedation permit. The first moderate sedation permit was issued on September 15, 2022, and the evaluations are to be performed within the first year of issuance. Board staff have been contacting newly licensed moderate sedation permit holders to schedule evaluations, and statistics will be provided at the August board meeting. Since the memo was finalized, we did have one moderate sedation permit evaluation, which resulted in a failure. That candidate has been notified, and as of today's date has not requested a reevaluation. Beginning on page 81 of your materials, the statistical tables show the results of the general anesthesia and medical general anesthesia on-site inspections and evaluations for the 4 previous fiscal years and through the 3rd quarter of fiscal year 2022-23. The results are separated by permit type and also include data for the current evaluator pool, which is separated by Northern and Southern California regions. No action is requested on this report because the data is provided as informational, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Olney. Are there any comments by the board members relative to this report?
I
Dr.
actually,
Molina.
yes, I have a question. On the newsletter, it talks about the number of units that are required per permit type. And it says oral conscious sedation, adults 7 units.
Correct.
But that is no longer effective?
The oral conscious sedation for adults permit is still in effect and was not impacted by Senate Bill 501. It's the oral conscious sedation for minors that was repealed.
Okay, for minors. Okay, thank you.
You're good?
You're welcome.
Okay, any other board comments or questions? Any public comment on this report? Seeing none, thank you. Let's move on. We're going to go to an update on regarding the board implementation of SB 501 Glazer. Ms. Olney, why don't you continue?
Okay. Thank you again, Dr. Felsenfeld. Jessica Olney, Anesthesia Unit Manager, and I'll be presenting agenda item 15B. We've been doing this for several years, and I've tried to condense it a little. This does begin on page 89 of your meeting materials. Senate Bill 501 made changes to the general anesthesia, medical general anesthesia permits, eliminated the conscious sedation and oral conscious sedation for minors permits, created new moderate sedation and pediatric minimal sedation permits, created new pediatric endorsements for the general anesthesia, medical general anesthesia, and moderate sedation permits, and established new monitoring requirements for the administration of moderate sedation, deep sedation, and general anesthesia to a minor patient. The regulations implementing Senate Bill 501 were approved on August 16, 2022, and board staff received the first application under the new regulations on August 26, 2022. Page 141 of your meeting materials includes a table showing the total number of anesthesia and sedation applications received, the total number of deficient applications, the total number of applications approved between August 22 and April 18th of 2023, when the meeting materials were finalized. Additional applications have been received, and as of May 5th, we have approved 19 initial permits for general anesthesia. We've approved 28 pediatric endorsements for general anesthesia, 12 initial applications for medical general anesthesia, 26 pediatric endorsements for medical general anesthesia, 143 initial applications for moderate sedation, 6 applications for pediatric endorsement for moderate sedation, and 76 applications for pediatric minimal sedation. Board staff and legal counsel identified areas in current law that would benefit from legislative amendments, and the legislative proposals were presented and approved by the board at prior meetings. As board staff continue to work on the implementation of SB 501, additional issues with the sedation and anesthesia permit statutes have been identified. To resolve newly identified statutory issues, board staff have drafted legislative proposals to be consolidated with the previously approved legislative proposals. The consolidated legislative proposal will be presented to the board for discussion tomorrow by the legislative and regulatory specialist David Bruggeman as agenda item 27C. If approved, the consolidated legislative proposal will be submitted to the California State Legislature in the board's sunset review report. At the February 2023 board meeting, Dr. Felsenfeld also requested additional information on the expiration of existing permits. And on page 93 of your meeting material, you'll find a table that identifies the expiration of permits for calendar years 2023 and 2024. And we can also provide updates at future board meetings. Again, no action is requested as this is provided informational, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Are there board member questions or discussion items? Well, I have one. Just in general terms, it looks like we're rolling into a new system right now, and it was a little cumbersome and it was confusion. I think we're starting to settle it out. It's going well in my mind that as we have people applying for the pediatric endorsements in the area of conscious sedation, in the area, of general anesthesia and deep sedation, they're getting them. They're making it happen. But there's still a large number of them are incomplete or not getting them because you're pending other information. What types of things are missing? Is it the caseload pretty much, or is it everything, or?
Generally, it's the individual records. A lot of times they'll submit the application, they'll submit the additional forms, but they'll forget to include those pediatric records.
The 20 actual cases which show what they've done.
Yes.
and the drugs that they've used.
Yes,
Okay.
and I do want to also point out that staff are receiving those applications from the cashier and in most cases processing them the exact same day or within 2 days, and they're reaching out to those applicants by phone, by email, the quickest method to try to get those issues resolved.
That I'm aware of. Okay, that's fine. So it's providing the actual proof, not just I did 20, but to show who the 20 were, and then you can assess that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other board member discussion on this? Is there public comment on that? Dr. Witcher? Oh, yes, here he comes. Don't run. All right. Go ahead, sir.
I think your assessment is correct, that it's going to take a while. This Dr. Bruce Witcher, representing myself in this case. Regarding implementation of the pediatric endorsement, I did have some feedback that I was asked to convey by a CalAMUS member who applied, and his application, he applied sent in his 20 cases. They were reviewed, and a number of them were denied because they underwent expert review, and the expert felt that they did not meet the definition of general anesthesia. That's highly subjective going on a paper record. Unless you were there seeing that case, as we all know, a general anesthetic dose in a small case in a small child is highly variable. So maybe just look at that and think about maybe how your experts or calibrate them or something so they're all going by the same standards. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Witcher. I think, Dr. Chen, you and I know that, but the rest of the team probably does not. That's so fine, though. All right. Any other public comment on this report? Seeing none, we can move on. Let's see where we are here. Go on to item 15C, which discusses the possibility of an action regarding appointment of GA, medical GA, and moderate sedation permit evaluators. Your favorite topic right now, isn't it? All right, go ahead, please.
These are all my favorite topics.
Very
Thank you so much. Again, my name is Jessica Only, Anesthesia Unit Manager, and I'll be presenting agenda item 15C, which begins on page 94 of your meeting materials. Beginning on page 95 of this memo includes the applications of 6 permit holders to become evaluators for the board's on-site inspection and evaluation program. The board conducts on-site inspections and evaluations of general anesthesia, medical general anesthesia, and moderate sedation permit applicants and permit holders. The evaluations include the facility, equipment, personnel, and procedures used. Pursuant to Senate Bill 501, the evaluation team, that might be a typo, consists of 2 or more evaluations for the first evaluation or if an applicant has failed an evaluation. For each subsequent evaluation, only 1 evaluator is required. The evaluators provide an independent evaluation and make recommendation of past evaluation, conditional approval, failed simulated emergency, or failed evaluation.
And that's all about the
Evaluators, oh, I'm sorry. Evaluators must be permit holders acting as subject matter experts approved by the board. In addition, evaluators must meet specific criteria listed on page 94 and 95 of your meeting materials. To increase the pool of evaluators, board staff post a continuous recruitment notice on the board's website. Board staff have also contacted newly approved moderate sedation permit holders who previously held conscious sedation permits and served as evaluators for the conscious sedation program to invite them to apply to become moderate sedation evaluators. This memo includes 2 general anesthesia permit holders and 4 moderate sedation permit holders who have applied to become evaluators. Board staff have reviewed the applications and recommend approval for their appointment as evaluators. We ask that the board consider staff's recommendations and make a motion to appoint the 6 applicants as evaluators for the on-site inspection and evaluation program. And again, I'm available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there any board member discussion? Dr. Forge?
I have a question. How long does this process take in order for the application for them to apply, I guess, to be an evaluator? Since there seems to be a problem with recruiting, and how long is the process for applying to actually be accepted or rejected?
Well, the applications are received, the board staff review them, we ensure that they hold a permit, they've held the permit for at least 3 years. Or in this case, for the moderate sedation permit holders, that they previously held a conscious sedation permit. We also review and make sure that there are no pending enforcement actions. And then, unfortunately, we do have to wait until the next board meeting to be able to present them for approval by the full board.
We good, Dr. Forge? Okay, any other board comments?
I
Dr. Molina?
have a question for legal. If we know these candidates well, do we have to recluse ourselves from voting?
I would recommend that, based upon, there's conflicts of interest, financial or personal, that there's perceived conflicts, and, which some may argue that if you have a personal relationship with a candidate, you may have a particular bias for or against that person. So if you have such a personal relationship with one of the candidates, you should consider recusing yourself from the vote.
Thank you. We have a quorum. We have a quorum, Dr. Forge. Not everybody has to vote. We don't need the whole quorum, because just a majority of the votes that are cast within the quorum will count. Dr. Montez?
Again, I would just like to point out, as Jessica mentioned, contacting newly approved permit holders to become evaluators was a recommendation made at the last board meeting. We heard you, and that was something reasonable that we could do, and we were successful. So thank you, Jessica, and your team.
All right, Dr. Lorien?
I just had a question maybe for legal. When we go through the motions here, some of these candidates did not want to do general anesthesia, so when they get permission, if they're to be evaluators, and they did not want to, is that, can they do it? I know they don't want to, but are they able?
I can answer that. Some of the permit holders are only moderate sedation permit holders, so they're not able to evaluate somebody at a higher level who holds a permit that's a higher level of sedation.
So when we go through the motion, we just say in general evaluator?
Yes.
I'm going to do them one at a time, Dr. Lorien, so you'll understand, okay? All right. Any other board comment or questions? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the group? Here comes Dr. Witcher again.
My favorite topic. And
Indeed.
thank you for acknowledging this issue in your president's report. And thank you, Dr. Montez, for your acknowledgement as well. I just need to remind everybody that prior to SB 501, we had 150 moderate sedation or conscious sedation evaluators. So we have a way to go to make up the backlog. I know we're working on it. We're doing a bunch of statutory amendments. I know you probably considered this as a way to address those, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? Okay, what I'm gonna recommend, what we tend to do here is we'll take them one at a time, which means we have to go through the discussion of them if we have it, public comment, and make a motion to accept them, public comment, and then a vote, and then we'll just keep going through each one. So I'm gonna take the bull by the horns, as it were, and I'd like to recommend that we approve the appointment of Dr. Rochelle Kim as a general anesthesia and deep sedation, as well as moderate sedation, because they can do those as well, evaluator. Is there any board, a second? Anybody? Thank you, Dr. McKenzie. Any, Ms. McKenzie, you're a doctor, actually, JD. Is there any comment, board discussion on this? Any public comment on this? Seeing none, the motion and no additional board discussion, let's go. Want to take the vote, please?
Okay, the motion is to appoint Rochelle Kim to general anesthesia and deep sedation on-site evaluator for the on-site inspection and evaluation program.
It doesn't say P's, it says it's for a general anesthesia and moderate sedation permit.
Okay.
That's what that's for. Am I correct, Dr. Ms. Regali? Ms. Olney,
Ms.
sorry.
Olney? Yes, just to clarify, for the first two applicants who are general anesthesia permit holders, they are requesting to requesting to evaluate both anesthesia and moderate sedation permit holders.
And that's acceptable. You can.
Yes, correct.
All right, is that clear? Everyone understand that? All right, so I think we're ready for a vote, council? We're ready for the vote. Thank you.
Okay, vote Chan? Chan, aye. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, aye. Forge? Forge, aye. Larin, aye. McKenzie?
Yes.
McKenzie, yes. Medina? Absent. Molina?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay. Olage?
Olagi, yes.
Olage, yes. Pacheco?
Checo, aye.
Pacheco, aye. Thakur? Thakur, aye. And you is absent. The motion passes, President.
Okay, thank you. Let us go to the next one. We have Dr. Christine Son. I'm going to move that she be appointed a GA and MS permit evaluator. Dr. Chan, second. All right. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, is there any public discussion? If not, I think you can just read the motion now, and we'll take the vote.
Okay, the motion is to appoint Dr. Christine Son as general anesthesia and moderate sedation evaluator for the on-site inspection and evaluation program. I'll read the roll, call the roll. Dr. Chan? Chan, aye. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, aye. Forge? Forge, aye. Larin, aye. McKenzie?
McKenzie, yes.
McKenzie, yes. Medina? Absent. Molina?
Molina, yes.
Molina, yes. Olage?
Olagi, yes.
Olage, yes. Pacheco?
Checo, aye.
Pacheco, aye. Thakur? Thakur, aye. And you is absent. The motion passes.
Thank you. Who would like to take the next one? Dr. Chan, thank you. What, I saw you reaching for your card, sir. Would you make a motion, please?
Motion, what?
And what are you moving? You got number 3 here.
Motion to accept
Dr. Rajiv Bhagat.
for moderate sedation evaluator.
Okay. Then Dr. Forge seconds that. Is there any board discussion? Is there any public discussion? All right, let's take the vote, please. Dr. Lirin?
Okay, the motion is to appoint Dr. Rajiv Bhagat as moderate sedation evaluator for the on-site inspection and evaluation program. And call the roll. Dr. Chan? Chan, aye. Felsenfeld?
Aye. Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, aye. Forge? Forge, aye. Larin, aye. McKenzie?
McKenzie, yes.
McKenzie, yes. Medina, absent. Molina?
Molina, yes.
Molina, yes. Olage?
Olagi, yes.
Olage, yes. Pacheco?
Checo, aye.
Pacheco, aye. Thakur? Thakur, aye. And you is absent. The motion passes.
Thank you. Who would like to do the next one, number 4? Thank you, Dr. Thakur. Take the motion is?
For conscious sedation?
To approve Dr. Ryan Kirby for moderate sedation permit evaluator.
Thank you. Second by me. Okay, I'll second it. All right, is there any board member discussion? Seeing none, is there any public discussion?
The first and second.
Seeing none, Dr. Loreen, you may take the roll.
The motion is to appoint Dr. Ryan Kirby to evaluator for conscious sedation, and moderate sedation, as evaluator for the on-site inspection and evaluation program. I'll take the roll. Dr. Chan? Chan, aye. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, aye. Forge? Forge, aye. Larine, aye. McKenzie?
McKenzie, yes.
McKenzie, yes. Medina, absent. Molina?
Molina, yes.
Molina, yes. Olage?
Olage, yes.
Olage, yes. Pacheco?
Pacheco, aye.
Pacheco, aye. Thakur? Thakur, aye. And you is absent. The motion passes.
Thank you. Who is up for Dr. Moreno?
I'll do it.
Thank you. Who's that? Dr. Molina, please.
So, Michael Moreno to be evaluator for moderate sedation.
Okay, that's the motion. Second by...
Olagi, second.
Olagi, thank you. Any board discussion? Seeing none, any public discussion? Please take the vote, Dr. Loreen.
To appoint Dr. Michael Moreno as evaluator of moderate sedation for the on-site inspection and evaluation program. I'll call the roll. Chan? Chan, aye. Felsenfeld?
Felsenfeld, aye.
Felsenfeld, aye. Forge? Forge, aye. Larine, aye. McKenzie?
McKenzie, yes.
McKenzie, yes. Medina, absent. Molina?
Molina, yes.
Molina, yes. Olage?
Olage, yes.
Olage, yes. Pacheco?
Pacheco, aye.
Pacheco, aye. Thakur? Thakur, aye. And you absent. The motion passes.
Thank you. Who would like to do Dr. Otomo Kojo?
And I will
Ms. Pacheco.
nominate Dr. Joan Otomo Cordial for the moderate sedation permit evaluator.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Yes, thank you. Olagi. Any board discussion? Seeing none, any public discussion? Seeing none again. Let's take the vote, please. Dr. Loreen.
The motion is to appoint Dr. Joan Otomo Corgel as evaluator for moderate sedation on-site inspection and evaluation program. And I'll call the roll. Dr. Chan? Chan, aye. Felsenfeld?
On advice of counsel, I will recuse myself.
Recuse. Okay, Forge?
Forge abstain.
Forge abstain. Larine, aye. McKenzie?
McKenzie, yes.
McKenzie, yes. Medina, absent. Molina?
Abstain.
Abstain. Olage?
Olage, yes.
Olage, yes. Pacheco?
Pacheco, aye.
Pacheco, aye. Thakur?
Thakur, aye.
Aye. And you missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
It's unanimous.
It's unanimous?
You don't need, the majority of the votes cast were for that, therefore that's good. It doesn't have to be everybody. You can abstain.
Okay, the motion passed.
That's parliamentary stuff. Okay, we're good. Thank you. Thank you to all of these people.
Thank you.
There you go, Ms. Olney. Put them to work. We've got 6 more people to work. Hopefully that'll continue on. We have one last item before we break for lunch. Let's go to item number 16, I believe it is, and this to discuss and have possible action on the regarding the executive officer's salary. That would be Dr. Montez. She's going to probably present this herself a little bit as to where we are on this.
Yes. So I just wanted to remind the board that you had requested an exempt level increase for the executive officer position. Pending final approval from CalHR, the board will be asked to establish a salary increase for the executive officer retroactive upon November 1st, 2022, which was the appointment of myself. I just wanted to let you know that it did clear the Department of Consumer Affairs and agency in January, and it is sitting at CalHR, and hoping to get some resolution soon so that perhaps in August that we can discuss this further. And that is it. Thank you.
Any board discussion? I was very proud to have written a letter of recommendation on Dr. Montez's behalf, and it's moving through as it should. It takes a long time. Dr. Chan.
This is just a commentary. The Dental Board of California, in terms of the numbers of licensees and permits, is bigger than the next 3 states put together: New York, Texas, and Florida. There's a lot of balls that are in the air that Dr. Montez has to juggle.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, okay, it is 12:30-ish, and we will take about an hour to come back at 1:32-ish what am I gonna do? We're gonna come back in closed session, though. So this concludes the meeting. For those of you who can't be in closed session, have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.